is a teacher and writer. Her research explores collaborative and experimental writing. She's the author of Phenomenology of Feral by Knife, Forks and Spoons 2017, High Erratic Ecology, again by Knives, Forks and Spoons 2020, and The Hen Wife by Contraband 2020. James Miller and Julia co-authored Strayers, which was published by Haberthorn, and she and Nathan Hyland Walker co-authored The Velvet Protocol in KFS 2022. And I believe you published part of it in Palminar magazine as well, which is in Palminar online, so you can check it, the performance and the poem. So we welcome Julia.
If it's all right, I'm actually going to read from the Velvet Protocol, which I wrote with Nathan Hyland Walker, and which is all very bravely published, because not everyone is willing to promote some work.
I think the mic will turn the audio on.
Actually, I think I turned it off before I went.
Okay, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So the thing you have to know about my collaborations is they're usually not with other poets. And in this case, for the Velvet Protocol, I was collaborating with a highly trained chef. And it all started late one night when I was driving after work across state lines in America to see my mother, who was dying of cancer. And I was trying to explain to my really good friend Nate what was going on and what medication she was getting. And I said bruschetta, and he heard bruschetta. And then we spent 10 years writing a book about it. Bruschetta, or bruschetta, depending on your ear. Bruschetta is red and red and red and red tomatoes and yellow tomorrows and orange tomatoes and green tomorrows and purple tomatoes looming in the middle of the Thursday and through this day, which is old. The bread should be day old before toasting, before rubbing with roast garlic. Do not roast the tomatoes, for they are summoning her to balsamic, to salt, to pepper tomorrow. Now throw the tomato dice into the bowl with seeds up, with skins up, face up, to macerate, to make soft or made soft or soaked, to soften an olive from olive or extra virgin olive oil. The future of oil is leaving here. So seeds up, sixes up, to fill the bread, let the tomatoes fall softly, only onto the bread yet. Bruschetta is simple, is still experimental. Appetizer, a part of the whole protocol. Please see the Velvet Protocol. In 2016, there was a phase 2 clinical trial completed for the treatment of metastatic HER2 positive breast cancer that was very charmingly called the Velvet Protocol. What you may not know is that American pharmaceutical companies actually use focus groups to find the sexiest names for clinical trials. They also look for the sexiest, most appealing names for the chemotherapeutic drugs themselves. I don't know who selected Bruschetta, but some people were absolutely paid to do it. Bruschetta is one of the 3 drugs that forms the core of the Velvet Protocol. The other 2 being navalbine and Herceptin, all of which I believe you have in Canada. The thing about chemotherapy treatment is that it's usually not just the 3 chemo drugs. It's also the pre-medications that mean that your body can tolerate it, the medications that you take as well for the side effects. And on some days it really just feels like the entire kitchen sink is going into one person's veins. If you've ever spent more than 6 hours as an outpatient in a hospital, you know what I'm talking about. Diet Pepsi, or Pepsi. In the same lemon as gasoline, soon gastrin and the vagus nerve trigger release of pepsinogen. It digests itself today. Now born, pepsin is sinning against the diner. We hate it. The mother of chaos is the grandmother of gas and the road from vast chasm void. The subsidian is a glass and charcoal act in between veins of history. I mean, like a grandmother in her kitchen, we take it. We take another little piece of her volcanic rock for relief if heartburn fizzes and days is still. People will tell you it leads towards cancer, and I will laugh, actually cackle like the witch, because coal or charcoal, it is important to note that gas came from chaos to denote a principle if a cult singing. We respire it. Last and also first in my reading from the Velvet Protocol is the dedication. And the thing about being in a medical environment, at least in America, is that there is a certain expectation of privacy. We call it the dreaded HIPAA laws. So I can't tell you who this is dedicated to. There was a woman in the doctor's office, like a grandmother in her kitchen, who could tell you about every chemotherapy drug as though it were a meal she had prepared herself for her family. She would tell you the recipe and the tricks known only to those who had used the recipe. She would tell you how she felt after the meal. She would tell you everything she knew if you would listen. This book is dedicated to her wisdom. Like a witch, she could conjure poison. Like a witch, she could nourish you. And now, if you'll allow me, I'm going to read you something from some newer and slightly more cheerful work. This is Tourmaline, mined from Untouching the Inhuman, That Therefore I Am. My own muse's favorite color is green. Tourmaline on the main line, in touch with material effective dimensions, straying while staying alive in green, in touch in the remainder, did itself engaging, straying, staying active, in touch in green. All while touch is physicality, virtuality, affectivity, emotional locality, whereby being green in pretend, touching feeling, always leaves the affective false scientific. Green is but an electromagnetic interaction. Touch is but an electromagnetic interaction. An explanation for the physics of green is that it does not involve touching feeling. An explanation for the physics of touching feeling is green not. Yes is no to touching feeling. You may think you are touching green when you raise grass to your mouth. Your hand is not touching the grass. Sure, you can finger the grass surface. It is exterior right. Where your fingers come into green, you are always sensing the electromagnetic repulsion between the electrons in your fingers and in the grass. They repel one another, and you decrease the distance between. Then the repulsive forces increases because you cannot embarrass two electrons into green near to each other. The reason feels or even hands have affected all we ever feel is the electromagnetic we seek is mostly empty, is more or less an atom hinting at its perimeter bare, is not first contact forever repulsion, sells negative lives, to particles calling and pushing the tail physics utilizes, to to tell itself about touching repulsion, green repulsion when green attraction had had enough. Quantum touching is the feeling growing these queer radishes as we wish. The field allows radishes to grow new in existence no longer lives. Eternity dies, and there is a radish deconstructing identity in ways even found. The field will bellow a call, that alluring murmur, wall, wall, insensible. The radish is growing to rework. The field is philosophical all the way down to nurture, a rugged and unexplored emerald terrain. No way around, unfortunately, lately. Only a light touch, grazing green, not sufficient time to give a rich sense of earth science. The field differs in its formalism, in its ontology. It inherits the ontology only particles and void and newly added fields. Once upon a time, particle fields and the void distant class to the things whereas they are interrelated things in the field, to take one instance to the field.